And it is part two of the week one preview here on the Audible. Part two is always interesting because we get to what the heck flex at the end of this program. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and Mark Schlereth's game, Carolina versus New Orleans. Not necessarily a scorcher
No.
for fantasy purposes, Bloom, but we're learning. We're going to get some
Right.
notes, some points to learn from for both of these teams, starting on Carolina's side. My first note is Bryce Young any good?
Right. Dave Canales, head coach. Good luck. Offensive line, they got some additions. They traded for Deontay Johnson. New Orleans defense is a strength, though. So not exactly the best unveil setting in the Superdome, but that means it's meaningful if we do see something like effectiveness from this passing game. I don't know if you want to count on it. Maybe Deontay Johnson with the targets, but who are we going to see otherwise? Adam Thielen, of course, but Jonathan Mingo, maybe Jatavian Sanders, the rookie tight end, maybe Xavier Legette. We'll see. We'll see some Chuba Hubbard. There's some positive buzz about Miles Sanders. But again, these aren't exactly the hits for fantasy, right, Cease?
Right.
This isn't a hit. Cease, I think that the headline was, you can get tickets for this game down here in New Orleans, home opener, for $11.
Woo. Okay. Not a hit, but an oldie, I guess, with Alvin Kamara. What do we look to here with the Saints outside of Olave and
Right.
maybe some Taysom Hill tight end action?
Right, right. That's the guy, right? All the headlines. Dennis Allen loves Taysom Hill. I mean, just all he wants to talk about is Taysom Hill. So, yeah, Taysom Hill is a tight end. I think that's something you would consider if you don't have something that is obviously a better option. If you went, say, TJ Hawkinson and took some late round tight ends, Derek Carr, you're going to lower expectations. Well, will Clint Kubiak raise expectations? Again, you took Chris Olave, you're going to play Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed, the perpetual what the heck flex. Alvin Kamara, who you led with Cease. Well, in some ways, that's a chip on. We know that Derek Carr is going to be disappointing. So he's going to check down a lot to Alvin Kamara, but still not exactly a fun ride. And Cease, I'm going to toss this one back to you because you've been covering the Broncos for so long that there's a lot of bloodlines in these games. And I look at this game and I mentioned Clint Kubiak. You're very familiar with that bloodline. But then
Mhm.
Ejiro Evero, which is who the rare coordinator that survives the coach firing. So
Right.
having covered the Broncos and understanding both of these guys, who would you give the edge? I think I know the answer.
Yeah, the answer is Clint Kubiak in the wide zone scheme because it forces you to stay disciplined, right? We're going to set you up. We're going to flow. The running back has a choice of bend, bang, or bounce. And based on what the defense does and based on his cues, like you're going to make a mistake. No matter how well disciplined you are as a defense, you're going to make a mistake. And when you do, this offense is designed, one, to raise the level of the quarterback one notch. That's why everybody loves it. Brock Purdy's playing one notch above his
Mhm.
natural level because of Kyle Shanahan. You're going to try to get that same sort of result out of Carr. So, again,
Yeah.
talking points, learning points, and kind of notes. Week 4, I'll have a better feel about these teams.
Yeah.
Boom. Week 1,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not
Right.
starting many from this
Right.
game.
At least in both cases, you have low expectations. It's easy to exceed low expectations.
Sure. Sam Darnold conversation and Daniel Jones coming up next. Vikings and Giants. Again, not necessarily a scorcher, but more learning points. And with the Viking side to start out with, we know TJ Hawkinson now looking at week 7. I believe he just said that. So, all right, Justin Jefferson and littering and Aaron
Right.
Jones and okay. And then Sam Darnold. How is he going to look against this Giants defense on the road? Open it up in week 1.
Yeah, again, the Giants, one of those teams that fired everyone but the head coach, or otherwise said it was everyone but the head coach. So Shane Bowen there, and they're a fearsome team. They added Brian Burns up front, but still a vulnerable secondary. And Shane Bowen Titans, we don't associate with pass defense. And so I do think you're looking at Jordan Addison. Sounds like his ankle's okay. So he's a what the heck flex at least. I say what the heck flex because you probably didn't draft him to start. Jalen Naylor is an interesting guy, a little bit banged up, a deep what the heck flex, but also someone we're watching as part of the week 1 reveal. The Ty Chandler, Aaron Jones split. I like Jones a lot in this game. I think that he's the kind of player that Sam Darnold, the biggest story in this game, sees fantasy or otherwise, is Sam Darnold. You see, so if we were going to start talking about like in the month of September, who has the most money to gain or lose the opportunity? I mean, Sam Darnold a 9-digit number is potentially in his future if he can play well this year. And it starts this week against the Giants, and you rely on someone like Aaron Jones. And if you have to dig deep in your fantasy lineup, you might rely on Johnny Munt. Josh Oliver's also there. Speaking of TJ Hawkinson. But I'm interested to see what Sam Darnold can do. And see, so I've cited you a lot as putting out there that, hey, Kyle Shanahan was interested in Sam Darnold and thinks highly of Sam Darnold. So if a highly structured coach on the offensive side like Shanahan likes Darnold, if Shanahan was right about him, then Kevin O'Connell will probably make something out of him.
Sure. Does anybody like Daniel Jones on the flip side? And the
Dave
Barkley
Gettleman,
left
where
Giants.
is he now?
Right. Well, of course. Yes. Yes. Where's he now? And we all love Malik Neighbors. I love the memes about Malik Neighbors. Keep them coming. And Singletary's got some skill. Always a guy people overlook. But with Daniel Jones out there, I could be a little rougher. Just keep feeding Neighbors, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we're going to watch here is we're going to have the Neighbors ratio. We're going to see Neighbors on his way to 180, 200 targets, and how good will those targets. You can still have a quarterback, Devontae Adams last year, or Garrett Wilson his whole career. The targets are there. Doesn't mean the fantasy success will be there. And the other thing is, this is Brian Flores' defense, year 2. Brian Flores wants to sweep the leg. Brian Flores' defense wants to really hurt offense. And Daniel Jones, remember injury guarantee and all that stuff, all that talk in the offseason that maybe Drew Lock might get a longer look because of that. Well, we may see that come into play earlier than we think. Devin Singletary as a flex play sounds like he's going to get most of the work. Finally, an offense is going to try. Why does it have to be this offense, right? Offensive line is an issue. Quarterback's an
Right.
issue.
Right.
But hey, we'll see what Singletary can do. With Neighbors, I think you want to see if you have Brian Dable understanding that everybody knows that this offense is based on Malik Neighbors. So does that open up Jalen Hyatt downfield? Does that open up Darius Slayton? Does that open up Wan'Dale Robinson for a lot of underneath stuff? So what does Brian Dable do here? It's possible with him at the helm of the play calling that we could see a more effective offense. Again, subject to Daniel Jones
Right.
actually executing. So lots of ifs. We're tying ourselves in knots here. Also Tyrone Tracy, Theo Johnson, some rookies getting some play here. As you said, Cease, learning. A lot of learning for the Giants and for us.
Yeah, there's some slam dunks in week 1, and there's some like, I don't know. And then the Raiders and Chargers is kind of one of those I don't know games. Honestly, on both sides, we're going to start with the Raiders first, and of course, talk about Gardner Minshew. It looks like Brock Bowers is going to play. Maybe they ramp him up, Bloom. I don't know. Devontae Adams is saying, I'm happy. If I was unhappy, I wouldn't be here. So he's denying the unhappy reports, which maybe isn't the way you want to start out week 1. Hey, are you happy? And maybe you won't be happy if you start some of your Raiders.
Yeah, just this whole game, Cease, right? I mean, growing up, if you heard Raiders Chargers, you thought AFL, right? And that was the innovative part of football, right? Growing up, the
Mhm.
idea, especially when you think of the Chargers, Eric Coryell, the Raiders, right? It was innovation. And this feels like the opposite, Cease. This is like going back to the football stone ages,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Antonio Pierce and Jim Harbaugh would be pleased to play a game that looked like something would be on black and white. And that might be what we get here for fantasy football, especially when Gardner Minshew's your quarterback, right? So Zamir White. I mean, this is a Zamir White game. You have to think that any game that we think the the Raiders are going to stay within shouting distance of their opponent, White's going to get 20 carries. So, and don't get me wrong, I don't think the Chargers are going to be a pushover. That's going to be interesting to see here. Is Brandon Staley? Did he set this defense adrift? There's a lot of talent on this defense, and
Sure.
I think Jim Harbaugh, bringing his Michigan coordinator, the name escapes me right now. This is a potential defense that at least is not a negative when it comes to fantasy, allowing. Well, and that's the other thing, right? Let's say Gardner Minshew and Luke Getsy get something going in this game. Well, to who? Is it Adams? Is it Jacoby Myers, who everyone's been raving about all summer? Is it to Brock Bauer? Is it Michael Mayer? Another player that people are saying, hey, we would be talking about him if they hadn't gotten Brock Bowers. Of course, they hadn't gotten Brock Bowers. Maybe they would have got a quarterback, and that's what we would be talking about. Because that's the thing; it's hard to trust anybody in this offense, in this pass offense at least, as long as the quarterback won by default in training camp.
Yeah, and how much do we trust Jim Harbaugh to let Justin Herbert do his thing for a certain amount, or is it going to be run, 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 and run some more, and then Lad McConkey, a dash of Lad, uh, a little
Mhm.
bit. But I'm worried slash concerned about Herbert's usage and just how much they will have to pass with a defensive minded coach that loves to run the ball.
Right, and again, against the Raiders, who aren't gonna run away and hide from anybody this
Right,
year
right.
offensively. So, yeah, you would expect it to be a 25 pass attempt game for Justin Herbert, but that could be okay for, say, Joshua Palmer as a what the heck flex type play because Herbert can be a good downfield passer. He is nursing that foot injury. He is acknowledging it. While, Jim Harbaugh, you ask Jim Harbaugh about Justin Herbert's foot. I'm concerned about everybody and everything and everyone's body part. So, yeah, Justin Herbert at least is telling us it's probably something he's going to have to take care of all year. And Beckham more as a runner than a passer, or as a mobile passer at least too. That being said, you are going to see them get to run the ball a lot. So Gus Edwards as a what the heck flex, J.K. Dobbins. And again, I don't know if we pause to consider that coming off of an Achilles tear after a pretty severe knee injury, he made the team easily. So we'll see. I mean, he'll at least get a chance to get some touches in this game. Uh, will Kamani Vidal even be active? No, and we'll see. DJ Chark's a little banged up. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe Quentin Johnston. And what you want to see in this game for Quentin Johnston, nowhere near a redraft lineup or maybe even roster, is confidence. And you did hear them talking about him like they understand who he is, what he can do, and what he can't do. So let's get him some touches, some success to get the taste of last year out of everyone's memory. And we'll see. Again, this is going to be, it's kind of a fun game in that we have the Jim Harbaugh era and we have Antonio Pierce, the interim coach, getting a chance after the team really showed up for him last year. But for fantasy, this has all the makings of a 13-10 game.
Yeah, and the makings of that might be actually in Seattle as well as we continue. It is a Broncos show. It's Broncos and Seattle. And on the Denver side, like Javante catching passes, or is it Jaleel catching passes? Jaleel is their 2 minute back to replace Samaje Perine. So those 50 catches our pot stoner degenerate Jason loves to put down a little scratch on. Well, those go to Jaleel now, and you're facing a defense that's all new. Mike McDonald, Baltimore aggressive mindset. Last year, Seattle was among the worst in the league at defending running backs who catch. So Javante, Jaleel, flex plays. Jaleel more of a what the heck flex. Bo Nix running the show. Cortland Sutton's his favorite guy. Greg Dulcich could surprise. Again, not offensive fireworks, but more clues here. And I think Sutton this season has 1,000 yards, doesn't have his 10 touchdowns. So they will scheme plays for Sutton. And Dulcich is just talented enough to get open. And if he's open, Bo's going to find him.
Yeah, this is a game, Cease, where I think the Broncos' offensive limitations might not limit them as much as it would against other opponents. And
Sure.
especially when you look at the matchup against Seattle, what is Seattle going to do? They're going to take away outside downfield passing with Witherspoon, and well, Denver's not interested in doing that anyway. That's
No.
not really that. You don't get Bo Nix to have a barn. You get Michael Penix if you want to have a barnstorming downfield passing attack. So, and the other thing is, I could see a successful first game for Bo Nix, certainly for fantasy too, because I do think Sean Payton's willing to use him as a runner by design, and he has some viability as a runner by design, just sprinkling it in, and he's going to be used in the horizontal passing game. See, Davis Maddox said on the show, he's something to the effect of Bo Nix is a really good quarterback to do a simulation, an approximation of 39-year-old Drew Brees. Right, so we're starting out with 39-year-old Drew Brees, right?
Okay.
Because he's got, and I would in so much as that Nix has gotten so many reps. He's a very experienced quarterback for a
61
rookie.
starts.
Right. For a rookie, he's very experienced. Sean Payton knew exactly what he wanted, right? The football backpack. And I think Sean Payton is going to have some ideas that are going to work against Seattle, and Bo Nix is going to be able to execute those ideas. Now, if Denver's defense, if now we can talk about another new name, Ryan Grubb. Now, if Denver's defense has trouble with Ryan Grubb and he unleashes some Michael Penix in Geno Smith with those three
Yes.
receivers, et cetera, and Denver gets out of their comfort zone and falls down by, say, 2 scores in this game, that's when it could turn bad for Bo Nix. I think that's when you could see Seattle's defense and really get the crowd getting the momentum involved. So it's a wide range of outcomes here, but I do think watching Bo Nix, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a false positive. If he looks really comfortable and everything works and they pull off an upset on the road, only for this to still be a very limited offense.
Yeah, and he's going to go through some growing pains, that's for sure. You mentioned Michael Penix and the Grub offense. Well, we get to see that, but with Geno running it, and I look at DK Metcalf and Pat Surtain, that's going to be a popcorn moment game.
Yeah.
So then it's Riley Moss because Jaquan McMillan will keep Lockett somewhat in check, and Lockett has a thigh injury that's limiting him to practice. But then it's going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba with
Yes.
renewed work ethic. Maybe not exactly what you want to hear entering your second year, but at least it's good, right? At least it's positive. So it's JSN versus Riley Moss, and then Noah Fant versus Cody Barton. I've called Cody Barton the king of the clap plays. Had to correct my friend Zach Bayou, said king of the clap. I said, no, 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 king of the
No.
clap plays. Sorry, Joe. Because when you're almost there, right? Like, oh, I almost got it. Oh, dang it. He almost had that play. That's what Cody Barton does a lot. And I like Cody, but Fant's a weapon. And Fant and JSN could be some sneakier plays. Again, deeper leagues, what the heck flex levels. But maybe there's some intrigue there if Sertan does lock down Metcalf.
Right. That you like JSN as a real upside play here because, like you said, Cease, it's the matchup plus an offensive coordinator that we know and a quarterback that we know like to throw downfield. They want to throw downfield. So JSN could be that guy. And by the way, a little penicillin. I'll clear that right up, Cease. Anyway, Kenneth Walker is the name that really stands out, though. We've heard a lot of buzz that it's a new offensive coordinator, new regime, that they really see him as a workhorse back. And Zach Charbonnet didn't do much. If anything, Kenny McIntosh had a much more impressive summer than Charbonnet. And I think we may find that it's not so clear that Charbonnet is the obvious backup if McIntosh keeps doing that. So I think we could be looking at, see, right away, oh, we should have been drafting Kenneth Walker in like the third round because Seattle's going to make him a foundational player and he's capable of being a foundational player in a good offense. And with Denver, again, Denver's not going to run away and hide from anybody on offense. So if you want to get Kenneth Walker 22, 25 touches, you should be able to do that in this one.
Yeah, and last year Denver couldn't stop the run, but they did go get John Franklin Myers and Malcolm Roach. So maybe that's solved. But either way, Denver's not going to run away. So that means Walker's going to continue to get fed. We need to get fed, which means we need your help, not only on YouTube by liking and commenting on this video, but also if you want to support the show, subscribe to footballguys.com. That's all we ask. We don't do any silly super chats, anything like that. And again, programming note will be live Sunday night doing our recap. So that'll be fun once again, and Matt Waldman doing the Thursday night live show as well. Bob Harris jumping on the Audible channel. So we need your help. Help us out. Subscribe on YouTube. That's free. And then subscribe to footballguys.com. Great price. Tens of thousands of pages for you to help dominate your league. And we appreciate you for that. Dallas and Cleveland is our next game up. And oh my God, I don't want to talk the Dak thing, but I guess it's kind of just overhanging everything still.
Yeah.
So everything's going to have to run through Dak. Don't give me Dalvin Cook. I mean, they are so unhappy with their running backs. I'm surprised they didn't make a move for Khalil Herbert or somebody like that. If you want to take that as a Lassie Bark, so be it. But like, this is a team that's going to have to live through Dak Prescott, who's not paid yet.
Yeah.
And it'll go to CD, the guy that did get paid.
Right. See, this is very much, it's awkward. Both sides, actually.
Awkward.
Awkward because you have franchises that, from all outward indications, aren't sold on the quarterback they have. Like, might have a different quarterback next year. And the quarterbacks that they've made big investments in. And in the case of Prescott, and you see, how Cleveland could end up there. And you might say, well, that's just rational at this point. But with Prescott, you wonder how you get there and see somewhat unprecedented. Because even if we talk about Matthew Stafford or Tom Brady got to free agency, I mean, that's in the autumn of his career. Prescott isn't there yet. And I think that Prescott has made it clear when he said, I've seen the other quarterbacks that have gone to their second team, again, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, whatever. And he's not afraid of that. I think he's saying, and I think he said right before he said that, well, I'm just going to say it. So his instincts even said, like, you don't really reveal that that's what's on your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, what happens there? And Dallas's deep offensive line is going through a little bit of transition. This is a really good Browns defense, by the way. Really good. Jim Schwartz, really good. It's going to be a really frustrating game to watch offensively. You are going to play CeeDee Lamb, maybe Cooks, Tolbert. I think actually Jake Ferguson
Yes.
of the rest of the passing game sounds the best. And then No, don't play a Cowboys running back there.
You just said it.
Yeah, that's all there is to say about it.
I guess I'll say it. Don't play a Cowboys running back. And then the Browns. Okay, Amari, uh, Jerry, yeah, you know, I can't wait for Nick Chubb to come back. In the meantime, though, where's the value in your Browns and where's your value in week 1?
It's Jerome Ford. And Jerome Ford was good last year, and Jerome Ford is going to get, Dante Foreman was banged up, Pierre Strong banged up. I think you're going to see Jerome Ford get a real feature back opportunity in this game. And we love season fantasy? It's very underrated, the idea of a feature running back attached to a good defense. Just that's all I need to know,
Mhm.
because it doesn't necessarily matter if you're efficient or if you're on a roll. If you're attached to a good defense, that's why Zamir White becomes interesting. Raiders defense is getting better.
They
So
feed each other. Think of it like
right,
DFS terms, like they feed each other. Ground game, defense go
yep,
together.
yeah, and that's Jerome Ford. And otherwise, again, divorce. Maybe this is where I'm on the couch in the middle of the preview show. Divorce hangs over this, where you have this sense, Cease, where it's like, okay, this isn't working. Now we have the shoulder surgery. Hopefully, this arm fatigue isn't a big deal. But is this going to work? Does anybody think it's going to work? Does it feel like it's going to work? Is this where we start to put more bricks in the wall of, wow, Deshaun Watson and that trade and that contract is going to go down as one of the worst in NFL history? And Dallas isn't a great draw for that. I mean, they don't have Dan Quinn anymore, but that's not Micah Parsons, et cetera. Cleveland's offensive line really banged up last year and not quite healthy yet going into this year. So, it's like kind of taking the cake out of the oven right before it's done, and having a slice. Again, this is a game that I think could be really offensively frustrating and mark a new chapter that's coming for both of these quarterbacks. If these teams are disappointing, the only story where Dak Prescott, I think, clearly returns to the Cowboys is a triumphant year where the Cowboys just have no choice but to bring him back.
Yes.
And I don't know if going into Cleveland is a way to start that kind of year.
If not, it's Dion and Shadur in Dallas. Calling it now. Don't know how it would happen because you'd have to have a top
Right.
1 draft pick. But a new era, exciting and
I'll tell you
new.
how it happens. He's New England has the number 1 pick, so they want to trade
Ooh,
out of it.
no, okay. There you go. That's how it happens because they don't need their quarterback. So there you go. And New England gets a haul. Washington, Tampa Bay. Exciting a new time in Washington. So some learning points, right? Because we know Jaden Daniels and what he can do, and he can be a QB1 for fantasy. He's a rusher, he's a passer, all these sorts of things. Terry McLaurin, we know what he's going to do to help move the chains and be a PPR king, all those sorts of things. For me, I'm looking at how many years has Austin Eckler had 50 plus catches and why Brian Robinson may just end that streak. Like Robinson doesn't need to
Yeah.
come off the field. He's a better receiver than people think. Now
Yeah.
Eckler's good enough. And I think when I drafted Eckler, was it Devin in our chat room and Fessel OG was like, it's as if Austin, because I was like, how did I get Austin Eckler this late? And then Devin's like, it's as if Austin Eckler looked old last year or whatever he
Right.
said. But it's like, okay, is there something else there? Is Eckler refreshed in this new role? What is this role with this
Right.
running back split?
Right. And does it matter with Jaden Daniels? So you've got unveil of Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. Let's be clear. It's the combination. We'll see. And an offensive line that is a work in progress, to say the least, against a Tampa Bay defense, Todd Bowles, he's gonna give him an initiation, Cease, right? I mean, it's this time of year, it's the beginning of school, right? I mean, he's gonna stuff Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury in a locker, right? In this game. He's gonna
Yeah.
meet him and say, I'm gonna take your lunch money, catch him where nobody can see and say, okay, are you really up to this? So I do think in a game where we're gonna learn about Jaden Daniels, what we might learn is just this is a really tough first test for a rookie quarterback, especially. And then does Cliff Kingsbury even help the quarterback? Do we have affirmative evidence that Cliff Kingsbury, as your offensive coordinator, as the architect of the offense in the NFL, is really going to help you? So we'll see. But like you said, Brian Robinson, underrated player. Tampa's tough against the run, but Brian Robinson should get 2/3 or more of the work here. Austin Eckler can show it was the injury. It wasn't that he's old, but what's the role here for him? The guy I'm most excited to watch here is Terry McLaurin. And the guy who could have a big game, even in a disaster game for this offense, is Terry McLaurin. Want to see him get moved around, which didn't happen in the preseason. We want to see him with a quarterback who can throw deep. So let's see some deep shots. Let's see that happen. Let's see some tempo. It's always possible that Cliff could have something up his sleeve, and he and Daniels could get this Tampa defense on roller skates. I think roller skates would probably help Zach Ertz be a little bit faster at this point, but he can catch 6 or 7 passes if you need a tight end. Again, though, Dan Quinn, good luck with this Washington team, but this is a year where you might go backwards before you can go forwards.
You mentioned speed. I'll mention Jami Brown as like a super crazy deep what the heck flex. You never know. Big play.
Yeah.
Big play. Tampa Bay's got some big play guys, and I'm interested in a couple of rookies, honestly. Bucky Irvin as a receiver, how much is he? Because they're like, they don't have to take Rashad White off the field. I mean, yeah, you don't, but if Bucky Irvin's just a better receiving back and a dangerous weapon himself, why don't you do that? I know we all love Mike Evans. We love Mike Evans. We love Chris Godwin there as well
Mm-hmm.
with Tampa. And for years and years and years, we've seen that combination. I want to see Jalen McMillan, right? I want to see how that looks on the pro field. So Tampa with Baker the Baby Maker, exciting home opener here.
This could be a really good offense.
Yep.
And, they drafted Bart in the center. That was a problem area after they lost Jensen. So this could be a really good offense. Baker Mayfield reunited with Liam Cohen, who took the job so he could work with Baker Mayfield again. Mayfield, their rehabilitation of his career happened with Cohen at the end of the season 2 years ago with the Rams. So this could be, and remember, this is your 3-time defending division champ. So we're talking about Atlanta. Ooh, Atlanta. Well, Tampa says we didn't go anywhere, and they are the kind of team again that go down to Tampa and they can really, really embarrass Washington on both sides of the ball. Part of that story is, like you said, Mike Evans. He's going to get his. And again, oh man, imagine Emmanuel Forbes on Mike Evans. That's like a nightmare. That's like Emmanuel Forbes. You wake up in a nightmare.
Right.
You're having to cover him. They don't even really want Emmanuel Forbes. That's the thing. Washington's in a season on both sides of the ball where they're figuring out who's going to be part of the program going forward. Chris Godwin in the Cooper Cup role. Again, Liam Cohen, Rams, Sean McVay, Tree. And Jalen McMillan, not so much for fantasy, maybe eventually down the road, but he's had a sensational summer. He could be part of this offense right away. Cade Otton going into the year 3, don't sleep on him. He's a good player. And it's just a question of will the targets be there? And again, what could be an efficient offense? Even Baker Mayfield. See, so if someone said to me, which quarterback is a better start in this game? I'm not sure. And that says a lot because Daniels has a lot of the Konami code rushing upside. Hey, Rich Rebar. But Baker Mayfield could have a 3 or 4 touchdown game easily. And, well, could Rashad White have a good game? I don't know. Todd Bowles is talking about hot hand. So there's your foreshadowing of this backfield.
Right.
And you already had Liam Cohen saying, this Bucky Irving, that's the way we want our running backs to run the ball. So how much I think let's see. With Rashad White, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good game just based on accumulation and Tampa winning this
Sure.
game pretty decisively. But at the same time, I don't know. This could be a game where we say Rashad White, if you have him, you're not even sure if you're going to start him in week 2.
Is Rashad White the new Devin Singletary, but with opportunity by default?
Yeah.
I mean, poor Rashad White. Like, hey, yeah, hey, this other guy, whatever. Hey, Rams and Lions up next. Bloom, you have to contain yourself to talk about the Lions for just a little bit. Let's start with the
Sure.
Rams and let's start
Yeah.
with Kyron. What? And then Blake Corum. So proceed with caution with
Sure.
certain Rams situations.
Right. I mean, you liked Matthew Stafford in this one because it's Detroit. They did do some upgrades in the secondary, but we'll see. You still like Kyron Williams in your lineup, but and look, Kyron Williams announces the punt returner. Now Blake Corum's the kick returner, so that cancels each other out,
Ha,
right?
right.
You just feel like, what's the split going to be? How much is Blake Corum going to get, and then what's he going to look like in that sample to show that maybe he deserves even more than that? Cooper Kupp's back. That's one of the things I think we're going to see in this game. Puka Nakua, haven't seen much from him. He's still in your lineup, but maybe a little bit of trepidation, and we just want to see him stay healthy. Demarcus Robinson's there if Nakua is banged up, or Jordan Whittington. Think of him as a Debo Samuel kind of guy for this offense, and just maybe sprinkled in, but a looking ahead, maybe a preview of what he could do down the line. Even Colby Parkinson's interesting because this is a good candidate to be the highest scoring. Talked about a lot of frustrating games for fantasy in the late slot, but the night slot on Sunday could yield a lot of points.
Yeah, lots and lots of points. And then Monday is, does Aaron Rodgers play more than 4 minutes?
Cease, you gotta let me talk
Oh,
about the
the Lions.
Lions.
Sorry. Lions side. Let's get to the Lions
Yeah,
side because there's excitement that Sigmund
yeah.
Bloom can barely contain himself.
Well, and they should expectations for the Lions. This is brand new. Period. I mean, even when they got to the NFC title game, there wasn't even a moment in that game, Cease, that I think we pondered, could the Lions go to the Super Bowl? But we pondered that last year for a while.
Mhm.
And new expectations. What does Goff do with expectations? Certainly, we're going to watch Jahmyr Gibson's hamstring. He's probably in lineup. You like David Montgomery to at least be a flex play here. Jamison Williams, high ceiling. Of course, you know what Sun God can do. Sam Laporta, again, also like Gibbs, coming off a hamstring this summer. So you want him to get through this game healthy. But all systems go for this offense, for this team in the Dan Campbell era. Let's see, maybe even my guys, Sione Vaki, get a few touches. And then Monday night, that's Aaron Rodgers night.
Yeah. Does he play more than 4 minutes? I'll get back to my original segue as we talk about Jets and 49ers to wrap up the week 1 preview. Still got what the heck flex coming up, but it's the Jets. So, how will him and Garrett Wilson be yelling at each other,
Mhm.
or will it be beautiful music because Brees Hall is unstoppable?
Isn't it fascinating too, Cease? I think that the two quarterbacks that you have to ask, is there a spiritual, psychological element to what's happening to their career arc? Sean Watson, we've already talked about, and Aaron Rodgers. And since we've seen Aaron Rodgers, take this turn publicly, like what we've seen is he's been on the field for a couple of plays and then his Achilles went, right? And you just, I mean, I'll say this, Cease. I think it's fair to say that Aaron Rodgers and how he spends his offseason and where his head is at is different now than it was like 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Is that fair to say?
Very much so, yes.
So how does that translate to the field? I mean, could it translate positive? I mean, it could have just been bad luck. I mean, he could be a more
Sure.
unburdened guy, but at the
Or is
same time,
football less important to him? We know this
exactly
game has to be all in, and coaches do not like when players are not like, "What? You're not sleeping
right.
with your playbook?"
Right. And who has the deference from an organization right now to not be all in and still get to basically dictate his terms, right? So it feels ominous. And at the same time, if you're Aaron Rodgers, and just indulge me for a second here, because let's think about Aaron Rodgers. Like he's a Northern California guy, right?
Mhm.
He goes to Berkeley, it's great. Then the Niners have the number 1 pick. He's in contention to be the number 1 pick, right? And they take Alex Smith and he falls in the draft, Green Room, Green Bay, and so on and so forth. We all know the story. And here he is back here for the beginning of this season, which could be another season where he's just hurt or ineffective or it's a joke, basically. Like it just doesn't work, it just doesn't click. Or it could be kind of like when Jordan Love got drafted. It could be that revival, that sense of don't forget, we're watching one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He's still playing. He's still alive. He's still out there. I was on a show with Big Doug Cease, and he said, "What if the Jets get 70% of typical Aaron Rodgers?" That's amazing. 70% of Aaron Rodgers makes this a playoff team, makes this a really interesting and dangerous team. But against San Francisco's defense, we'll see. And the other, see, why am I telling the story? Because you're playing Garrett Wilson, you're playing Brees Hall, and that's it. I mean, we're going to see Mike Williams is going to mix with Alan Lazard, Tyler Conklin, whatever, Braylon Allen. But this is a really fascinating game to be that island game on Monday night because the Aaron Rodgers story is an epic story. And no matter what, on this night, it's probably going to take an epic turn.
Yes, that's what we're all waiting for, and then Brock Purdy's waiting to get paid. It's like the 49ers, you always have the money, just gotta figure it out,
Yeah.
and they've worked on figuring it out because they couldn't
Right.
get Courtland Sutton, so they've kept Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams got his deal, and now Brock Purdy's waiting, arm extended, and then we'll see, but we know how the 49ers want to win and how they should win, and fantasy GMs, there will be a lot of games that aren't decided until Monday night, we'll say that.
Yeah. And if you're waiting and counting on the 49ers offense, might be a little bit disappointing just because of the Jets defense, because of Robert Saleh. This is a good defense. This is a good defense. If Brandon Ayuk hasn't really been practicing, welcome to seeing Sauce Gardner up in your grill. So maybe is it a Debo Samuel night? Debo Samuel actually, by all reports, had a great summer. Christian McCaffrey coming off the calf injury. In your lineup, make sure Jordan Mason is rostered in your league, though, just in case he has some sort of aggravation or issue with that. Uh, I guess Cease, I mean, it's got a football angle, so we got to at least mention like just sending out good vibes to Ricky Pearsall. And
Sure. Mhm.
I mean, I hate to like then jump back into fantasy football, but um, Jacob Cowing is an interesting guy. I saw an item, I can't remember who put it out there, Cease, that unlike Ray McLeod, with Cowing, there is some speed in that role, the jet sweep role, this routes that McLeod was getting. So, maybe he could be a surprise superstar from this game in terms of fantasy, break a few big plays, be used in a way that maybe the Jets aren't ready for, and an over aggressive defense. I think, and it is a defense that's going to be missing Hassan Reddick. That's a what a what a debacle. Again, the Jets, are they the punchline in this one? Are they pulling off the upset? I think both are possible.
It's possible that we are here to what the heck flex level. So as you look over your lineup and you just need that punch, we're going to talk some what the heck flexes. I will begin at the running back position, and we've mentioned some names. I talked in the Tennessee game how I love Tyjae Spears. He's a what the heck flex to me. Austin Eckler, who we've just talked about in this show, he is a what the heck flex level. Don't forget about Jaleel McLaughlin, and because it's a Broncos show, Cortland Sutton may actually be a what the heck flex for you, and he should not be. Lad McConkey should be in as a what the heck flex. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, again, going up against Riley Moss, I think that's a great what the heck flex there as well. Tonight, as you watch this on Thursday, Xavier Worthy needs to be in everybody's lineup. He's like a regular flex, not even a what the heck flex. My opinion, could be wrong. We shall see, but it's going to be fun to watch. You mentioned Wandale Robinson. I'll throw him some love as a what the heck flex. Sigmund, you look over your week one matchups. You need some punch. Who are some of your week one what the heck flexes?
And this is a weird what the heck flex week, right? Because really what we're asking is who are the players that you didn't draft to start that you're going to start over someone you did draft to start? I mean, it hasn't even been injuries or issues where you expected to have somebody and now you don't have them, so you need to dig down on your bench. But depending on how deep your league is, there are some running backs and wide receivers you might want to stop and consider. Blake Corum, Bucky Irving, these guys could have bigger roles than we think right out of the gate, especially when you think about with Irving, like second half work, if they're up on Washington. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Chargers are going to get to run the ball a lot. Jaleel McLaughlin, as you said, Cease. Darren Sproles light. Jalen Wright is a potential three-headed backfield. And Samaje Perine, I think on one hand, you have, and again, Thursday night, so you might have already watched the game, but you'll know the answer to this question as I say it. Haha, the joke's on me. Is it that it's been such a short time since you joined the team that you can't really trust him? Or, and this would be resounding with that in mind, is he basically Jerick McKinnon? He's the Jerick McKinnon role, which is a pretty valuable role for fantasy football, as we've seen. Would be a bummer for everyone who got Isaiah Pacheco, wide receiver, Khalil Shakir, and see, this is kind of like your Xavier Worthy take. Just if you're wondering, wow, should Khalil Shakir, and I feel like I should start him. Should I? Yeah, start him.
Yes.
Even start him. Okay. I know that Curtis Samuel's practicing full with the toe, but I think it's a Shakir week against Arizona. Andre Ioshavas, even with Jamar Chase back, because Chase might draw Christian Gonzalez and Ioshavas, he could be one, again, deeper leagues. Mario Douglas on the other side of that, maybe set up for a 7 for 60 kind of line as the one guy who can consistently get open for Jacoby Brissett. AD Mitchell, see, I'm having a little AD at FOMO because doesn't sound like Josh Downs is going to be ready to play. Missed practice already this week. Mitchell getting some work in the slot. We know how explosive he is. We know what he can do. We know this could turn into a shootout. Another game, sorry, Houston Indy candidate for the highest scoring game of the week. Joshua Palmer mentioned, Jalen McMillan mentioned. Darnell Mooney, again, as a Steelers fan, 3rd and 13, he got it right where you want him, and that's Darnell Mooney getting behind somebody as Joey Porter's trying to lock down Drake London. And last one, Greg Dortch. Yeah. Again, you're looking for your surprise team of week one. Arizona on the road in Buffalo could be that surprise team and that surprise play. How does he get it done? The guy who's been stealing the headlines in Arizona all summer, Greg Dortch.
Yes, that is a wrap for today's program. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter, X at Sigmund Bloom. We need your help on YouTube, so like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, and we appreciate you. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Year 19. Let's get it on. Week 1 is here. Go forth, destroy, dominate, and mostly enjoy. He's
The
Sig. I'm Cease.
Cuervo Gold, the
Watch these
five
videos. Listen
Colombians,
to Sigmund sing. Watch the
make the
videos.
night a wonderful thing.
Stay tuned and stay frosty.